Welcome to my preview of the Guaranteed Rate Bowl featuring 9-4 UNLV versus 8-4 Kansas. Now, in any other season, in any other year, if I'd mentioned those two teams playing, you would have said, okay, that's got to be a regular season matchup because those guys aren't making a bowl game. But there has been something special going on out here for both of these programs because of their recent head coaching hires. 3 years ago, Leopold joining Kansas, and then last year, Barry Odom joining UNLV. These programs have had one of the most radical turnarounds of any college football program in the last 10 years. And they have turned what were bottom of the barrel, bottom of the trash heap football teams into contenders within their conference. 8-4 Kansas, a actual top 25 contender in the Big 12. UNLV, second in the Mountain West. Both of these schools have turned themselves around in a way that is incredible and awesome to watch because you love to see teams, underdog stories, rise up and fulfill potential that you didn't even know they had. And of course, it's great for either conference that lower level teams are elevating their status and elevating the conference with them. So this is a game taking place right after Christmas, December 26th, 7 p.m. Mountain Central Time on ESPN. 77.2% chance of winning for Kansas per ESPN, and a 12.5 point favorite for Kansas per Vegas. Now, I do want to kind of hit again how significant it is that these two teams are playing with the record that they have. Because again, if you see this in any other season, this probably isn't a game you tune into. But this has suddenly become the best bowl game in the Mountain West this year. And I am making this preview after the Boise State loss to UCLA. But I promise you that's not tinting my perspective of this because I said that previously that this seemed like a better matchup than the Boise State one. I mean, Kansas is a really exciting team to come face, and they're very motivated to play in this game, and for a good reason, because this is only their second year in a row of bowl eligibility. Previous to that, they hadn't been bowl eligible since 2008. And their best season was 2007, where they'd gone 12-1. This is their first season since then. Since 2007, this is their first season. So last year, was their first season since 2008 that they have been bowl eligible. They haven't been bowl eligible since 2008. 2007 was their best last record, 12-1. So last time they had a record better than 8-4. But since 2007, they haven't even sniffed bowl eligibility. For UNLV, this is their first bowl since 2013. It was a loss, but this is their first bowl since 2013. This is their best season since 1984 when they went 11-1. They have only had, since 1984, they've only had 4 winning seasons. 4 seasons where they won more games than they lost since 1984. These are not two programs that like recently were highs and lows and that kind of thing. I mean, Kansas, 2007, for some people that's recent, but it's not recent. You know, it's just outside of 20 years ago. So 2007, they were good. 2008, they were bowl eligible. After that, they have been garbage. UNLV, 2013, they were bowl eligible. 1984, they were good. Since then, they've been garbage. These are two programs that are not just bowl eligible, they're not just 6-6, but they're sitting here with one team with a chance to get to 10 wins and one team with a chance to get to 9-4 in a Big 12 from a Big 12 conference. This is going to be a very exciting game to watch with two highly motivated teams, and it shows in the opt-outs and transfers coming into this bowl game. Not a ton. 2 offensive linemen and an offensive coordinator gone for Kansas. Okay? UNLV losing a safety, that'll be big. There are some questions. I wrote this bowl preview yesterday. So, a lot of things can change. A lot of things can change in bowl season coming into these games because players make their decisions at the last moment. But as of yesterday, it looks like Jaden Maven is staying with UNLV. There was a lot of rumors about him leaving the program, going elsewhere, but so far he's still with UNLV and expected to play in this game. So there's a high level of motivation for both these programs. I think the players can sense that they're part of building something special here for both of these teams. So we're going to go through the key players, keys to the game, and a summary at the end with a score prediction for who I think is going to win this game. And I'll be looking at both teams as I do that. So this is for you UNLV fans. It's also for you any Kansas fans. Hey, maybe BJ Rains is watching. This is for all of you guys coming in and previewing this game. So for UNLV, key player for me, if he plays, and the assumption right now is that he is going to be their quarterback, Jaden Maeva. 2,794 yards passing, 62.9% completion rate percentage, 14 touchdowns, 8 picks, also a runner, 261 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns. He is the heart and soul of this offense. He is the reason that UNLV was sitting in the Mountain West Championship game with a chance now to get to 10 wins. For Kansas, it's going to be the running back Devin Neal, 1,209 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns, average of 6.6 yards per carry. It's his second 1,000-plus yard rushing season, 214 yards receiving, and a touchdown. In the last 5 games, so 4 out of the last 5 games, he's rushed for over 100 yards. This is an X-factor player that's going to be tough to stop for UNLV. They definitely struggled against stopping Ashton Jeanty, George Line. They're going to struggle against stopping this guy as well. So keys the game for UNLV, it's bend but don't break. Things are going to happen in this game, obviously. Big 12 offense, they're going to be tough to stop. But bend but don't break, because Kansas, they put up a lot of yards. They do a lot of stuff between the 20s. But they do struggle a little bit with completing their drives. So I'm going to look at a few games here. For Kansas versus Nevada, a shared opponent with UNLV, they barely won that game. 441 yards versus Nevada, but they only put up 31 points, 31-24. They had 4 drives of 25 yards or more that ended without touchdowns. Versus Texas Tech, a loss. They put up 344 yards of offense and only scored 13 points. 539 yards versus Illinois, a win, but they only scored 34 points, and they put up almost 600 yards of offense, 539. So I guess on the underside of the average, but over 500 yards of offense and still only 34 points overall. And they had 5 drives of 30 plus or more in that game that ended without touchdowns versus Illinois. The small victories are what is going to build momentum. So even if they get a field goal, that is a win. Not allowing drives to end in touchdowns. Ton of yards between the 20s. You let them drive all the way from the 10 all the way to the 5, but you hold them at the goal line. Huge, huge win. Forcing Kansas into field goal and taking the small momentum boost from what they're able to give you. For Kansas, make UNLV one-dimensional. That's their key to the game in this one. 235.2 yards per game, but nearly 3,000 yards from their quarterback and 1,300 yards from a single wide receiver. They've averaged, however, that's like a passive-focused team, right? That's a team that you think is like a pass-happy affair. Well, they're not. This is a balanced attack team. This team needs the running game involved in order for the passing game to show up. They've averaged almost 180 yards rushing per game. They have 3 running backs of over 400 yards. Their number 1 rusher with 722 yards. But they have a lot of guys that get it done because they have a lot of guys that get the ball. They are a balanced attack team. They are not an air raid style attack. This is not a perennial passing quarterback that's just going to sit back there and throw the ball. He needs the running game to set up the pass. For Kansas, they have to be able to take away that element. One of those two. If you take away the air raid, they're not air raid, but if you take away the pass, they're not going to be able to beat you on the ground. But if you can take away the ground game, the air attack is not going to step up for the lack of running game. For Boise State, they held UNLV to 81 yards rushing, less than 100 yards rushing, and that equated to only 217 yards passing offensively for UNLV. They've averaged 235.2 yards passing per game offensively. They took away the run game. There wasn't this sudden shift of energy into the passing game. No, the passing game faltered because the running game wasn't there. So for Kansas, if they can make UNLV one-dimensional, whichever one that is, the running game is going to be a little easier to stop. If you can stop that running game, that quarterback, that offense becomes a little less scary. He's not going to be as consistent. He feels the pressure. This is not a UNLV team that has a lot of consistency. Playing in their first bowl game since 2013. They're not used to being a consistent team. They don't have that depth. They don't have that experience to draw on. And so if you take away an element and make them one-dimensional, they're going to struggle to beat you offensively. So for UNLV and Kansas University, both of these teams are incredibly motivated. You can't really look at either of these teams as one of them being more motivated to be in this game. I mean, I always think that a Group of 5 program is more motivated to play versus a Power 5 because the Group of 5 is getting a reward for playing the Power 5, whereas the Power 5 it's a step down. Like they're playing in a bowl game that features a Group of 5. Like that's what their thought process is coming into this. But also, this is not a Kansas team. This is not a typical Power 5 team. This is not a team or fan base that has that mindset because they haven't been here. They haven't been the team that's been consistently appearing in the bowl games, appearing in upper level bowl games, appearing in the top 25 consistently, competing at the top level of their conference. Great basketball school, obviously, but they've just been that. They've been a basketball school, and so they don't have that arrogance that really, permeates a lot of the Power 5 and makes them so intolerable. So for this game, I would say both teams are equally motivated to be here, and again, it shows by the lack of transfers from both programs. So this is going to be a very, very close game, a very, very tough game. For me, I've got to look at Kansas, the better program out of the Power 5, out of the Big 12, a good Kansas team. They had higher expectations. They thought they could be more. They ended up losing some games that they wanted to win. But I think that Devin Neal has a big game versus UNLV. I think that UNLV does become one-dimensional versus this team. And that bit by bit, Kansas is able to pull away and get that lead. I'm predicting a final score prediction of 38-27. However, UNLV fans, if you want to look at a shared opponent to give you some hope in this one, Kansas only beat Nevada by a touchdown. UNLV thrashed Nevada 45-27. Put up almost the same amount of yards, 474 yards versus Kansas only putting up 441 yards, but they scored 2 touchdowns more than Kansas did versus Nevada. Again, showing the lack of consistency from Kansas' offense, a lot of drives stalling out that shouldn't. So, Kansas is going to give you opportunities. They will. They're going to be tough to beat, but there are going to be opportunities to win this game. But it's going to have to be a much better UNLV team that appeared in the Mountain West Championship game for sure, and they're going to have to play flawlessly. A lot of mistakes made in that Mountain West Championship game for UNLV for sure. They're going to need to not make those mistakes. And Maeva, he better play, otherwise they don't have a shot. I believe he will. He is going to have the game of his life to win this game for UNLV. But take the small momentum, take the small wins, and you'll be able to, and there's a chance that UNLV will have a shot at winning this game. Either way, I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a very, very fun one to watch. I really don't know who to root for in this one because Kansas kind of got that little underdog story to them. I like them. UNLV, I'd say their fan base is actually more obnoxious. Kansas, I don't have any beef with Kansas. Kansas fans are great. I lived in the Southwest for quite a bit, and I was in Oklahoma for a long time. Interacted with a lot of Kansas fans. Kansas fans are great. UNLV fans, they're very, very annoying, especially with their constant push for Power 5 status when they really haven't earned that on the football field, and that's what matters for Power 5 is your football field performance. I don't care that you're in Vegas. Nobody's watching you in Vegas. You should know if you watch this channel that I am not pro UNLV in any way. So I want to root for the Mountain West team, but I also like Kansas, and it'd be nice to see UNLV get put back in their place. I don't know. This is going to be a tough one to see who I'm rooting for, but I am predicting, I think, a win here by Kansas. It's going to be interesting. I'm very, very excited for it. Make sure that you like and subscribe. I probably just lost all UNLV fans. They're all gone. They're all in the comments hating on me right now. But if you like Mountain West football, if you like West Coast football, which I include the Big 12 as part of that, because there's not true West Coast Power 5 football anymore because Pac-12's gone. But Big 12 teams on the West Coast and the Big 12 Mountain West. I do a lot of talking about the potential merger potentials or potential football new changes that are coming with conference realignment. I do a lot of talking about that as well. So if you like any of those topics, and of course, Boise State, make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. As always, go Big Blue!